Good morning, seventh grade. We're going to go over those questions 1 through 5 that I assigned to you from 8-4. And the first question was, who were the Julio-Claudian rulers after Augustus? And the name Julio-Claudian comes from the fact that they are related in some way by blood or connection to Julius Caesar or Claudius. The first emperor we're going to talk about is a fellow by the name of Tiberius. He is a great military leader. He was able to get Rome on track and keep Rome's economy stable. He was, a fairly successful emperor. But of course, emperors do die, and he dies, and then the next person to take over is a guy by the name of Caligula. Caligula was a little bit of a twisted dude. They got rid of some positive things. He got rid of the sales tax. He allowed people that were in exile to return, and he increased the power of the court system to try to provide some equity between citizens and non-citizens. Then you have the next emperor, Claudius. He's going to build the port city of Ostia, which is about 11 miles to the west of the city of Rome. And it is a beautiful harbor. He's going to build another aqueduct that's going to provide water to the city of Rome. And he's actually also... Oh boy, that was great. He's going to conquer most of what is Great Britain, the island of Great Britain. He doesn't get as far as, what is modern-day Scotland, but he makes attempts at that. And lastly, we have another crazy leader, and his name was Nero. Nero liked to kill Christians, among other things, but he did have some positive things. He constructed a lot of new buildings. He gave slaves the right to file complaints and assisted cities that were suffering from a disaster, which is kind of interesting because he went crazy, and the story goes that he fiddled while the rest of Rome burned. So those are the Julio-Claudian leaders that followed Augustus. A couple of other people of note. A man by the name of Vespasian is going to take over from Nero. And Nero, of course, will kill himself, and the Roman Empire is in a little bit of disarray. Vespasian will, with the help of his son, Domitian, will conquer the rebellions in Jerusalem, destroy the Jewish temple, start the construction of the Colosseum, and between these two fellows, deal with another great fire in Rome and the volcanic explosion of Mount Vesuvius down in the southern part of Italy. And so Vesuvius is going to wipe out the cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum, and really influence what's happening in Naples, which was not too far away. The second question deals with, how do these roads and aqueducts and a common currency really help Rome's economy? Well, what we're talking about is infrastructure, and you need roads, and you need water, and you need a common currency to help with your economy. And all of these infrastructure projects were funded by the Roman government, and wherever they conquered, that was what they were going to do, is they were going to build a road, they were going to build an aqueduct, and they were going to make sure that that city or that territory that they had conquered had everything they needed. And so having roads that connect to all parts of the empire, very, very important. And remember that being an empire, they're conquering people that weren't Latin speaking. And so having a common currency made for business transactions to be much easier. Just think of like the European Union and what they do now. They have a common currency. So very, very important. Then you understand the Romans built roads that lasted, aqueducts that lasted, and they definitely, that common currency was helpful. Another thing that's mentioned is, or not mentioned, is the fact that they used Latin as a language of trade. And so even if that wasn't your native language, that was the language of trade. It's kind of the way English is today. I think I mentioned that Vespasian and his son Domitian. I apologize. It was his son was Titus. During about a 500 period of time, there were 11 aqueducts that were built that brought water to the city of Rome. So aqueducts were and still are a pretty important way to send water. The United States uses aqueducts still to send things to send water. All right. Then they had the five good emperors. And the five good emperors, there was a chart on page 292, and they talked about Nerva. And Nerva, it says here, reformed land laws in favor of the poor, and he revised the tax structure again to make it more fair. He was followed by emperor known as Trajan, and Trajan lives from 98 or reigns from 98 to 117, a good long time. He expanded the empire to its largest size. So about 117, everyone says that's probably the largest extent of land for the Roman Empire. He built a lot of new public works, fountains, and public buildings and forums. They're followed by, after Trajan, we get Hadrian, and Hadrian built Hadrian's Wall in Britain. He made Roman law easier to understand, so very important. And then after him, you have Antonius Pius, and he promoted art and science, built new public works, and passed laws to aid orphans. Very important. Antonius Pius passed laws to aid orphans. And then the last of the five good emperors, and really after this it really does go downhill. The fifth one is Marcus Aurelius, and he helped the empire economically, and he reformed law. So all of these gentlemen, are here to provide structure to the Roman Empire. The problem would be Marcus Aurelius' son Commodus is going to be the beginning of the end for the Romans. Some of the agricultural products that were important in Rome, of course, they had grapes and olive oil and grain, and they would use those and they would trade all the way to China, all the way to India. From China, they would get silks, and from India, they would get spices, and they would get tin from Great Britain. They would get lead from Spain, and iron from Gaul, which is modern-day France. And so all of these products were used in the Roman Empire to help create other products that the Romans could trade. And so raw materials were very important. And so Rome had these resources available after they conquered lots and lots of territory. Lastly, we have to deal with the inequality that was in Rome. You know already from our discussion before we had to break that women were not treated well, that slaves were not treated well. And during these wonderful economic times during the Pax Romana, merchants did very well. The wealthy landowners who owned the large farms, the latifundia, they did very well. Your average farmer and your average city dweller really, really suffered under this. It was definitely an economic divide, the haves and the have-nots. And you had a lot of unskilled people that just hung around in the cities. And so the way the Romans dealt with that is they would provide free food and entertainment to make sure that the mob, as they called them, would not rebel. Anyway, good luck on your 8-4 quiz. If you listen to the video, then it's really going to help you. Take care.